Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And as always, a huge thanks to the community partners who make it possible for us to be here each week: Shepherd Community Center, Tesco, and Prime 47 downtown. The support of these incredible companies makes it possible for us to be here on WHMB TV 40 every Thursday night. Well, it's time to welcome our first guest this evening. Lisa Laughlin is here. Lisa is the Executive Director of the West Indianapolis Development Corporation. Lisa, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
You're welcome, Curtis.
Yeah, I know your focus is on housing. Tell us a little bit about what your organization does to help people.
So West Indianapolis Development Corporation is a community development corporation. Along the lines of most every other community development corporation in the country, our focus is affordable housing. We also have a side focus on economic development in communities. And typically, community development corporations are found in lower income neighborhoods.
Yeah. These issues have been, I'm sure, challenging during the pandemic. And now here we are kind of getting out of the pandemic and with inflation sky high. What has this season of life been like for you and your fellow coworkers who are doing such incredible work in our community? I can't imagine how difficult it's been.
It has been challenging. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'd use the word difficult, but it's definitely been challenging. And because of a lot of unknowns. We had no idea what the impact was going to be on our tenants until the rent ND program kicked off and the state's rental assistance programs kicked off. For those of us who are in the process of building new housing, that's probably been the largest impact. Costs, as everyone is well aware, have skyrocketed, and houses that we were going to build in 2020 for $160,000 are now costing us well over $200,000 to build.
Wow. That kind of impact, we see the raw numbers there, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 increase. What does that do to your organization when prices skyrocket like that?
It causes us to drop back five and punt, to be quite honest. The majority of our funding for these builds comes through the federal government through HUD's home program. And they have been able also, because of the pandemic and then those additional funds that have been made available, they've been able to step in to fill that gap. The bottom line at the end of the day, instead of being able to pull off maybe $20,000 after we sell these homes to then put into the next homes that we build, we're probably gonna break even. We might come out a little ahead, but at the very least we'll break even. And that's probably true across the board.
Yeah, so a huge impact, obviously.
Yes.
Let's talk about the need for housing and what affordable and safe, secure housing does for people, because it's such a base need. And when you don't have those things, it feels, I'm sure, like every other part of your life is crumbling because you don't have that good foundation of affordable housing. What do you see when you work with your clients, get them into affordable housing? What do you see the difference in their lives once they're able to connect with you guys?
The difference is night and day. There is, I won't use the word dearth. We have 126,000 families in the state of Indiana who are housing insecure. And what that means is they are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. The federal government says that no one should spend more than 30% of their housing or of their income on housing. So we are, with our colleagues, actively trying to take bites out of that elephant every day that we can. I'll tell you a little story about Leilani. Leilani lived in a house that we rented to her for 18 years. She was the only person to ever live in that house. We built that house, she walked in. We made it possible for Leilani to purchase her home for $80,000.
Wow.
It appraised for $104,000.
Wow.
Leilani's life has been changed, and she will tell you this, because she is now not only a homeowner in the house that she has put blood, sweat, and tears in for the last 18 years, the house that she raised her family in, but she now has hope for her future and for her children's future. This is generational wealth that she intends to pass down. It's huge.
I was going to ask you, obviously the name of our show is Restoring Hope, and we talk about hope and mental health. And this, again, the work you're doing just gets right to the core of that, and you change people's lives, their futures, generational even, when you provide that hope and when you provide kind of a stability to mental health, right?
That's exactly true. Housing is the number one need. Housing, food, healthcare, transportation, all of that. And if you have to worry about whether you can make your mortgage, whether you can pay your rent, that concern and that worry will play on your mind and lead to depression and other types of mental illness. And so the ability to be in a home that you're either renting or that you're buying and be able to afford your payments and then have those dollars left for childcare, health care, transportation, food, it relieves a huge burden.
Yeah, for sure. Lisa, for people who want to know more about your organization, maybe get connected to the work that you're doing, how can they do that? What's your website?
www.westindydev.org.
westindydev.org.
That's right.
Lisa, thanks so much for being here. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. I think it's a great reminder to all of us that housing insecurity exists right here in our communities, in our backyards, and it's just wonderful to see how you're helping people. So thanks for that, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Curtis. Thanks for the opportunity to tell a little bit about what we do.
Of course. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We have a special treat for you tonight. One of our Crosswinds counselors is here with us. Kiara Williams joins us to discuss the work she does right here in Indianapolis. Kiara, thank you for spending some time with us tonight.
Yeah, of course. Glad to be here.
How is life for you as a counselor? This has got to be a very interesting time to be a counselor.
Yes, it is.
How's life?
Busy. But it's going well. It's going well. Just people coming in, the door is constantly rotating, which is a good thing as a counselor, but as human, it starts to get kind of tough sometimes, but it's going really well.
It is a good thing because we know that the need has gone through the roof here over the last couple of years for mental health services. So when people are coming through the door, it at least tells us that more and more people are willing to maybe get past the stigma, get past any barriers, and at least see a counselor. So that is good, right?
Yes, absolutely. The stigma is definitely being broken. It's being shattered, which is amazing just to see in the community, to be a part of breaking the stigma around mental health and services and those types of things. So,
what do you think what can you attribute that to? What do you think is leading to the stigma? I think we're all getting better about openly talking about it. What else maybe leads to that stigma being shattered? I love that word.
Yeah, so I think just, again, that openness of having conversations, I think just culturally, the barriers that are being broken, being able to see, people of color in the counseling services helps to bring people in, but I think also just helping to break down language and helping people to know, like, we see you as counselors and we're here to help you. We're here to talk to you about the different things that you have going on. And there's not any, I always tell my clients that these four walls that we're in, like, this is your safe space. There's no judgment here. There's no, just fear here. Like, I want my clients to feel safe. And I think that the more that people enter into the counseling sessions, they know that, like, that's a safe space. Outside of the counseling session, the world might not feel so safe, but when they come into the room, like, this is a safe place.
And that's probably a new message for people of color, especially. I feel like I've seen a lot of numbers that back up historically African Americans and Hispanics have been really leery of getting into a counseling session and into a counseling setting. Is that what you have seen throughout your career?
Absolutely, yes. And I think too, just culturally, when you're talking to certain cultures, just the cultural piece of we don't talk about things outside of the home. It makes me think of, I have young clients who talk about the movie Encanto on Disney and the message behind one of the songs in there of, like, we don't talk about Bruno, and how in families a lot of times things are not talked about, and we don't talk about them not only in our family, but we don't talk about them outside of the family. And so now being able to have social media platforms, being able to have segments like this where people are coming and saying, like, it's okay to talk about mental health, it's okay to talk about things that you're struggling with, it's okay to know that I can talk about this with someone who's a trusted source who supports me, and I'm not alone in what I'm going through.
There's also this whole element of, I think historically, no matter what race you are or what your background is, I think I would say this about myself, that there might have been a stigma of, oh, if I see a counselor, there's something wrong with me. I'm not normal. And I don't want anyone to think that or know that. But it's at such a base level, we just all need help at times. We need to talk to others. We need to communicate. We need to be in connection with each other. And I don't know, I feel like that's a big part of what maybe has changed in society, is that mindset shift from, ooh, something's wrong with me, to, no, you know what? It's healthy to actually talk about problems.
Absolutely, yeah. I tell my clients all the time, we go to the doctor for a yearly physical. And so if I go to the doctor and nothing's wrong, just to get checked out, like I can go and talk to someone just to have someone to listen to me, because again, like you said, maybe it's not that anything's wrong, but I just want someone to listen. I want someone to be able to vent to, someone to be able to get these things in my head, get these things that I go through on a day-to-day basis out, and have someone, again, a safe space, a safe person to talk to about these different things.
So work is busy. What are you seeing from clients? What kind of issues? Is it all of the things that you normally have seen, maybe just ramped up, or are there new issues that you are helping people to work through these days?
Yeah, so it's definitely some of both, just the typical issues that we may see in a counseling session, but then also really with the transition back into, normal or whatever that is in the real world. Post-pandemic is really what we're seeing a lot of, or what I've been seeing a lot of, just the anxiety of entering back into the workforce, the anxiety of figuring out, okay, well, what does it look like for me to, have to go back into dropping my children off, or, go back into the workplace because my boss is talking about reopening the work environment, and I'm not sure if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready to go back and sit super close to people again, or, they're saying 6 feet, but they've hired X amount of people now, and I don't know what that's gonna look like in my workplace.
On top of that, right, as we're trying to come out of this pandemic, inflation's gone through the roof, everything costs 5 times what it used to cost. Are you seeing that financial stress and those pressures mounting on your clients as well?
I am. I'm definitely seeing that as well, just because of, people questioning if they can still afford services, and people, trying to figure out, all right, well, what does it look like for me to feed my family? What does it look like, again, if I have to start driving to work? What does that look like? I have to take my children to school. What does that look like? I still want to hang out with my friends. What does that look like? All these different things. And so definitely seeing the financial pressures as well in the counseling sessions.
Let's talk about Crosswinds from the perspective of being an employee. You're a counselor for Crosswinds, obviously, and it's a great place to work. What makes it a great place to work?
Yeah, so I think just for me, being able to know that, we do a monthly meeting, and when we go into our monthly meetings, every time before we start, we do devotionals. We are, having just fellowship and worship. And I think sometimes in the workforce, we lose that. We lose the ability to be open and radical about our faith. And I appreciate the fact that, like, I can do that, and not only with my coworkers, but also with my clients when they come in. If someone's like, I'm having a really tough day, like, all right, well, what does the Bible say about this? Like, okay, what does Jesus say about just when we're going through difficult things? Like, how can we cast our cares onto him? And, just being able to see, sometimes as a Christian, it doesn't always click, but sometimes, when we have someone else that's saying like, hey, I see that, and, how can we still cast that onto Jesus? It's like, oh, like, man, I forgot about that. Like, so yeah.
What would you say to a counselor out there who's not with Crosswinds, maybe considering a change of employment? Why should they come join Crosswinds? Why should they be a part of the Crosswinds family?
Yeah, so I think for me, I love the flexibility. I love the ability to, still continue to determine, when am I taking clients? When am I not taking clients? What are the, for me, I have a lot of teenagers and a lot of children. And so for me right now, I appreciate the fact that I'm able to go to my supervisors and say, hey, like, I kind of want to take a break from this. And they're supportive of that. And it's not oh, well, like, you really should be doing this. It's like, no, well, let us know when you're ready to reopen up your caseload to that, demographic again, and we'll do that. And so I really appreciate that.
Great. We met Rob Eicher, the new vice president of Crosswinds last week. Got any dirt on him? Anything you want to share with us?
No, he came to one of our meetings before, and he's a really great person. I'm excited to see what he does for the company.
Yeah, me too. Kiara, thank you so much for being here. It's great to be with you again.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. We've already met one Crosswinds counselor tonight, and in our Counseling Corner segment, we get to hear from another. Dana Hamilton joins us to discuss reframing the concept of self-care.
Hi, my name is Dana Hamilton, and I am a therapist with Crosswinds. Today I wanted to talk about self-care and reframing it. Society tells us that self-care is typically these grand gestures like a spa day or little vacations that are great every once in a while, but not realistic regularly. Self-care instead can be looked at as small steps we take to create the life that we really want to live. This looks like creating routines for your morning and evening, such as adding exercise of any kind. It doesn't have to be going to the gym. Eating well and praying and taking some silent time to just collect your thoughts. One thing that we should definitely be prioritizing is hygiene. Things like showering regularly, brushing our teeth, washing our face, and our mental hygiene, going to therapy if you need it, taking time to let yourself feel your feelings and cry if you need to, and looking at your screen time. This could be taking less time on social media. It could also mean just looking at your feed and getting rid of any negativity on there and making sure you're following people that bring you joy. If you're at a place where you have no energy to even do the basic things, dumb it down a little bit. If you can't take a full shower, get a baby wipe. If you can't brush your teeth twice a day, just brush it once a day. Any small changes can make a big difference in the end. And give yourself grace while you're trying to figure out what your routines are going to look like. You can change them up and start small. One little thing at a time will eventually create the life that you want to live. So overall, self-care doesn't have to be big or expensive or time-consuming. It's just the idea of taking that time to really take care of yourself in a loving way.
Welcome back. Each week here on Restoring Hope, we focus on hope, and we strive to bring you hope through our guests and our different segments. Tonight, in our Beacon of Hope segment, Crosswinds executive Gordon Haynes looks at hope through the lens of happiness.
Hi, my name's Gordon, and I'm an executive at Crosswinds. Today I want to talk to you about happiness and hope. Got a question. Do any of you have a pet, a dog, a cat? Have they ever had fleas? You know, those pesky little bugs that make them itch like crazy? There's an interesting fact about fleas. They have one of the highest vertical jumps of any animal in the animal kingdom. They can jump between 7 and 8 inches in height. And even though that doesn't sound like much, when you compare that equivalent to a man, that would be the same as a man being able to jump 250 feet in the air. Another interesting thing about fleas is if you put them in a small jar with a lid, they'll jump and hit the lid and jump and hit the lid and jump and hit the lid, and eventually it'll adjust its vertical jump so that it no longer hits that lid. It'll limit how high it goes. And any flea born into that family, in that jar, will see how high their parents jump, and they won't ever jump any higher than that, even after they leave that jar. It's kind of interesting. The question I have for you is, how often do we do that to ourselves in life? We let others, things they've said, things they've done to us, things we see on social media, limit our own joy, happiness, and success. We put limits on what we can do based on what we see around us instead of realizing what God wants for us. God wants each of us to live a joy-filled life. He created each of us for this purpose. If you're not living a joyful life, make a positive change. Get out of that limiting environment. Find your joy. In Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, God states He has plans for each of us to have joy and to prosper. You have the power to do that. Make a change. Choose joy. Have a great day.
Thanks, Gordon. A great reminder for us all. Tonight, you've heard a lot about Crosswinds Counseling and had the rare treat of hearing from a Crosswinds Counseling counselor. If you need to meet with a counselor, Crosswinds has skilled and loving counselors and therapists ready to meet with you. However, maybe you find yourself in a different situation. Maybe you are a counselor or a therapist looking for a great place to work. Crosswinds Counseling may be the right place for you. We're looking for wonderful women and men to pour into the lives of others and help them when they need it most. You can check out all of the career opportunities at crosswindscounseling.org/careers. There are opportunities for people who aren't counselors and therapists as well. We also need great people in the office to support those helping others in the field. If you know someone who would like to join the team, please let them know about Crosswinds. The need for counselors has never been higher than it is right now. Thanks again to our partners in bringing you Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling, Prime 47 Downtown, Tesco, and Shepherd Community Center. And thanks to all of you for spending part of your Thursday evening with us. We'll see you next week right here, Thursday nights at 9:30 on WHMV TV 40. Stay safe and be blessed.